Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Yeah, I'm sitting here in my messy car. They say a clean car is a sign of a sick mind, right? I'm driving in the morning in an eastwardly direction, an eastward orientation. And the sun is in my face. So we're going to have a talk this morning about a phenomenon that affects too many families, right? We're going to talk about the Dark Triad personality disorder complex. The Dark Triad is a triad of personality disorders, which includes narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Now, I know a lot of people know people who are dark triads, who are narcissistic, Machiavellian psychopaths. But we have to examine what that means, what each one of those things mean, right? Because we suffer from this as a people. Families suffer from it as families, and the individuals who possess the dark triad, who embody the dark triad, are the ones who suffer the most, and all of the people who actually have anything to do with them. Now, narcissism. We all know what narcissism is, but we're going to go over it again. Don't confuse narcissism with self-love. Some people confuse narcissism with self-love. It's not. It's actually the emptiness of not having love for oneself. If one has love for oneself, then one recognizes their own power. If you recognize your own power, then you don't have the need to manipulate people. Now, I have my own theories about where this dark triad stems from. Okay, I believe that intelligent people, otherwise intelligent people, don't challenge themselves enough. They don't face their fears enough. They don't stretch themselves enough. They don't study enough. They don't learn enough. They don't read enough. They don't expand on themselves enough. They don't reach high enough. I mean, that's basically what it is. They don't reach high enough in life. And so instead of, for their own reasons, most of the time it's fear, instead of focusing on mastering the things in life, right? Instead of focusing on mastering, I don't know, getting a degree, or maybe building a business, or pursuing a career, and it doesn't have to be secular. It could be building a family. It could be raising a beautiful child in the world. There's a lot of things that one can do to focus their energy in an honorable way that honors God. Okay? And when you don't do that, then, and you still have the intelligence, right? Then people tend to focus on mastering people, right? Instead of mastering life, instead of mastering the things in life, they want to learn how to control people. Ayn Rand used to call those second-handers, people who take life through a second-handed approach, right? Instead of actually focusing on conquering and mastering the things in life, you want to conquer and master manipulating other human beings. I highly recommend reading the book Objectivism by Dr. Leonard Peikoff to kind of get a little bit more clear understanding of it. Or even the works of Ayn Rand, right? Of Introduction to Objectivist Ethics. I like Atlas Shrugged, but Atlas Shrugged is very long, and if you don't understand metaphorically what she's talking about, you can kind of miss it. And if you don't really understand inside, if you can't really internalize how to be an objectivist, right? How to live like an objectivist, then some people may feel as though they need the story, right, behind rational objectivism in order to explain, in order to illustrate objectivist ethics, or the objectivist mindset, or the objectivist paradigm, right? Some people actually need that, and that's good. But you don't need. I mean, personally, I don't think you need to read Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged is a good book, but like I said, if you understand objectivism, then that's all you really need. Now, I'm not saying you have to embrace the philosophy of rational objectivism. I'm just trying to give you a little understanding of a philosophical approach that would be better than being a second-hander or being a narcissist and trying to manipulate people instead of manipulating or mastering the things in life, mastering life itself. Now, Machiavellianism. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote a book called The Prince. And in that book, he discussed, basically, Niccolo Machiavelli was one of the members of the last monarch of Italy. And when Italy secularized, I guess that's how you can say it, secularized, they ended up putting him away to pasture. When they put him away to pasture, he sat down and he wrote a book called The Prince. Basically, his book is illustrating, or the gist behind his book was that you guys may be moving the world into the land of democracies and of republics, but if you're a head of state, if you're a leader in the world, then you are a king. And so therefore, this is how one must operate as a king. Machiavellianism is basically ruthlessness, right? It was in this book, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, that the term the end justifies the means, or all the means are justified by the end. And so people which is basically a description of ruthlessness, right? So people who take a Machiavellian approach to things, they don't care who they hurt or what damage they do, as long as they can accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, right? And those people are ruthless. That's what we call ruthless people, okay? Psychopathy. Well, I mean, everybody knows what a psychopath is. I don't really have to go through what it means to be a psychopath, to lack empathy, to lack the basic components of a human being. And so the combination of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy is what we call the Dark Triad personality complex, or Dark Triad personality disorder, or Dark Triad personality disorder complex. And I think it also has to do with self-esteem, right? Because if a person doesn't have both self-efficacy and self-worth, it is impossible to obtain self-esteem, right? If you don't have the ability to take care of yourself, provide for yourself, feed for yourself, if you don't have the ability to do that, as well as the understanding that you deserve the good life that your intellect and your capabilities and your sinew and your strength and your patience and your discipline can earn you, then you're not going to have self-esteem, you simply won't have self-esteem, okay? Self-esteem is a combination of two things, self-efficacy and self-worth. This is the way I try to raise my children so that they have a healthy sense of self-efficacy and a healthy sense of self-worth, right? When people have not developed this, when people haven't gotten to the point of developing a real sense of self-esteem. Hey, Sexy Red, how are you? They tend to fall into narcissism, right? They tend to fall into Machiavellianism. They tend to fall into psychopathy. Basically, they've got something to prove, right? That's basically what it means, right? Narcissistic, Machiavellian psychopath, a person who is all about manipulating other people, a person who is ruthless. Thank you. The person who is ruthless and figures all the means of accomplishing their ruthless ends will be justified by the end, by having the end that they're trying to accomplish, by having the end they're trying to achieve. And a person who basically lacks empathy. That's what a psychopath is. A person who would basically hurt a child in order to, for example, in order to establish what they're, in order to prove the point that they're trying to prove. Now, for some reason, the Creole community, and I'm going to go there. Yeah, I'm going to go there. The Creole community seems to have an abundance of Dark Triad personality disorder people. Okay, especially my family in particular. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. We've got more Dark Triads than healthy people. It's really a shame that it has to be that way, but it really is. And, you know, I mean, the Creole community is so small. I'm just making, you know, I'm only using my own history, my own culture, and my own background, you know, coming from New Orleans and everything as a reference. But I'm sure people of every ethnic and cultural persuasion experience this, right? And those of us who have individuated, and that's what it really comes down to, individuation, right? Those of us, and let's talk about that, right? Families are close, right? There are families that are close, and it's very good to be from a close-knit family. But some families are not just close, they're actually enmeshed. And enmeshment is usually, well, it's always the result of narcissistic parenting. It's the result. And this is how narcissism is passed from one generation to another, to another, to another. Because a narcissistic parent doesn't want their children to become individuals. They want their children to serve and worship them. They want their children to be, an attachment to them. They want their children to be basically an extension of them. And so therefore they puppet their child through life. Mothers raise mama's boys, and these children never individuate. So those are the two things: enmeshment and individuation. Individuation occurs at several stages in life. The first stage being at 2 years old, when the child realizes that, hey, every time I cry, mommy's not necessarily going to come and cater to me. And at the same time, hey, if I'm quiet, I can sprinkle talcum powder all over the carpet and mommy won't even know that it's happening. So that's the first stage of individuation, when the child comes to the terrible twos. The second stage of individuation happens around 14 years old, 14 or 15 years old. And that's what I'm going through with my youngest son right now. When they form their own personalities, right? And they don't have to necessarily agree with you or agree with their parents or everything that their parents say. But they usually don't, right? Because it's natural. It's naturally part of the human condition to rebel, right? That's why I provide my son with books. That's why I enable and empower him to individuate, to become his own person, to become an individual through his own reading, through his self-expression on his own YouTube channel, and and basically in his own life. Because if you don't allow a child to individuate, then you're going to pay for it throughout the whole life of the child. A child who never individuates lives a very miserable life, a life that has no peace, a life that is not peaceful. This situation has struck me so close to home. Actually, it's actually struck me in my home, but I'm not going to get into that right now. What I'm trying to get across is, on a conceptual basis, the concept of the Dark Triad personality complex of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, and how a narcissistic parent can enmesh children, which is basically passing that narcissistic personality disorder on to the next generation, and preventing their child from individuating, preventing their child from becoming an individual and developing their own thoughts, their own mind, their own ideas. Being a father, we're often accused of being not present in a child's home, in a child's life. All right. I mean, and maybe that's deserved. Maybe there are a lot of fathers who are by choice simply irresponsibly, absent in their child's life. But to be a father who actually has a passion for raising his children, who actually has a love for raising his children and wants to raise them as individuals, that can be a challenge. Because if the mother chooses to enmesh the child, wants to enmesh the child and control the child's mind, then the child, who does not understand, right, the difference between enmeshment and individuation, may interpret that enmeshment as love. Well, mommy loves me more because mom's all on me. Mom's all up in my face. Or my grandmother is all up in my face. Or whoever it is that's raising this poor enmeshed child. And that's a recipe for disaster, especially when it comes to a boy child. If you have a boy child that is not allowed to individuate, some may have it genetically inside of them to just get off their ass and do their thing. And some may not. Some may actually remain enmeshed mama's boys for the rest of their lives. And then they end up having unhealthy relationships with their spouse, and then they end up having enmeshed relationships with their children, and on and on and on. Okay, so it's a cycle. It's a cycle that we can break as people. It is a cycle that can be broken. It's not as though it's written in sand that written in stone that you have to be a narcissist if you have a narcissistic parent, right? And I am a firm believer that a person can learn their way to safety, right? Because most of the time, if you go to therapy, if you go to psychotherapy, your therapist, if your therapist, if he or she is worth anything, your therapist may, give you a reading list, may, suggest that you read things, right? That you, read books, certain books. They may give you a book list. And you can go through your book list on your own. You can study on your own. You can visit the psychology section at any bookstore and buy up all of the psych books that you want. That's simply, that's everyone's prerogative. That's what everyone can do, right? Well, I'm not going to give you specific books. I mean, I might. I mean, for guys, I would say read Robert Bly's Iron John and Fire in the Belly by Sam Keane. These are the early masculinist works, couple of the early masculinist works. I would recommend anything by Ayn Rand or Professor Leonard Pitoff of the Objectivist Institute. You Can Have It All, Death, Taxes, and Other Illusions. I would recommend Nietzsche, Thus Spoke That Zarathustra, and On Good and Evil and Beyond Morality, anything written by Nietzsche. Nietzsche's the teacher. But on the topics, on subjects, right? I'm not gonna. I don't want to recommend authors per se, but on the topics of enmeshment and individuation, read up on that, bone up on that. Look at some YouTube videos by professionals about that. Also, the Dark Triad. I think Dr. Jordan Peterson, has a couple of books talking about the Dark Triad personality disorder and how easy it is to slip into that. You know, many people suffer from having Dark Triad personalities in their family. And those of us who don't suffer, or those of us who are strong enough to handle it, still have to grapple with, how do you manage, how do you deal with a Dark Triad person? You know, how do you deal with the Dark Triad in a dignified manner while maintaining your dignity? How do you deal with a liar who you know is suffering from a Dark Triad personality, while at the same time, even though you understand that this person is emotionally and character disturbed, at the same time you have to hold up your dignity as a human being and not allow people to lie on you, not allow people to defame you? How do you do that? That's a challenge. That is a challenge, right? And in today's society, especially as a black man, there are a lot of people who are predisposed to believe stereotypes and tropes that are thrown at a black man. And so a lot of people weaponize that. A lot of narcissistic Machiavellian psychopaths weaponize that cultural phenomenon of racism in our society to throw mud at black men, thinking that, well, you know, the majority of people that you may talk to may be receptive to that. This is one of the many reasons I am a public figure, right? Because, you know, eventually intelligent people can ascertain who you are by your public image, by your public persona. So that's one way to keep yourself safe. But I don't have all the answers, right? I do not have all the answers. I don't know what to do to prevent Dark Triads from disturbing your life. I don't know. I mean, you know, I basically stay to myself, right? And I focus on creative and constructive things to do in life. And I think most intelligent people find joy in being creative, and most people of good character find joy in being constructive, right? So it's your choice. I think the best way to avoid getting into, you know, slipping down into the mud puddle of trying to manipulate people or avoiding being manipulated by people is to get your ass in school, some kind of education, some kind of training, some kind of way that you can move your life forward, right? Right? Find something constructive, which has nothing to do with manipulating other human beings. Find a thing, like a Rubik's Cube, right? Find a thing in life, right? An inanimate thing in life to focus on, and that should be part of your growth trajectory, right? Find something, a career, an education, something that you would like to focus on, and then focus on that, right? That's all I gotta say. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. Stay tuned to my channel. I've got some things to take care of this morning, and then I'm going to do another neurofeedback session at some point this afternoon. Remember to, if you like this video, remember to like it, right? Hit the subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And as I say on all of my channels, do good and make good things happen. Stay kind, because kind is the new sexy. Stay blessed and stay healthy. Have a wonderful day, people. Ciao. I love you.